What's that in the sky? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's
Talk Geekly! What's up, geeks? Welcome back to Talk Geekly, the resident Kryptonian. I am Pendragon here. As always, I am with the Gotham Knight. Job for Cody.
We are Talk Geekly, bringing the latest and the greatest from comic books, geek culture, and so much more. And boy, do we have some exciting things to talk about.
Yeah, we got some good books, some good movie news for sure. But before we jump into that, so how was your week there, bud?
It wasn't too bad. I ended up working on the 4th of July, and then I took Liv to see Spider-Man. We got to see Far From Home. A little unfortunate I didn't get to see it right when it launched, but it came out on like a Tuesday, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact day it came out. It was the 2nd, so it would have been Tuesday. That would have been Tuesday 2nd.
Yep, and I work nights on Tuesday, so capped it off with some fireworks. So wasn't too bad. What about yours, man?
I was in the same boat. I ended up working the 4th and the 5th, even though they did offer it for us to have off. But you got to make that money when you can. But after that, had a good barbecue, enjoyed it with some friends and the family, of course. And like you, I wasn't able to see Spider-Man on day one, but I did manage to round out my 4th of July week sitting in the theater, enjoying it in a wonderful IMAX screen. So that was pretty fun. But let's get this podcast rolling in the right direction, as we always do, starting off with some comic book reviews.
So we are going to lead off with Batman Beyond 33. And this is kind of where the comic book really gets into the depths of what's going on. We see Terry getting pulverized once again by Split. And Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. He's off gambling, off living the luxurious life. And we're just trying to figure out what's going on with Bruce. And we finally get to the bottom of it. And it's going to take readers by surprise exactly what's going on. This is definitely one of those books where it's kind of lackluster in parts, but then it definitely hits you with a haymaker out of nowhere. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good book overall. This was written by Dan Jurgens with art by Rick Leonardi. It sounds to me like Bruce might be getting some outside influence, but I'm not going to have you answer that because, we don't want to spoil it for people. But it's weird that he wouldn't be helping Terry and kind of ignoring what's going on. Yeah, and this entire time he's just been like, I guess he would say flexing his millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars.
Wouldn't you though?
Yeah, no, but this was something that wasn't exactly Bruce Wayne, like gambling, just being all like, it's like when they tried to do the cop out for Bruce Wayne during what was it? The Dark Knight trilogy. You know what I mean? When he meets the Joker. Yeah. And then he's like, everybody leave, or no, that was Ra's al Ghul. Yeah. When he met Raj, and tried to get everybody out of the mansion. I don't think it was an easy cop out, but it definitely was weird.
All right, well, I'm going to jump into my first book here, which is Wolverine Exit Wounds, and it's actually a Marvel one-shot, and it's featuring some of not just comics, but Wolverine's most influential writers and artists. We're actually treated to 3 different stories, which all give us a glimpse into different moments in Wolverine's life. We have the Weapon H program, his time in Japan, and then one of my favorite comic book artists / writers, Sam Keith. He tackles a rather trippy altercation between the Canadian Wildman and the protector of the innocent, Venom. Now, in Wolverine Exit Wounds, I gotta say, Claremont's story is definitely my favorite. Because what he does in this story is he does a really good job of connecting us with Wolverine's much more human side. And it's something you don't really see from the character that often. I mean, he's basically with Kitty Pryde in Japan, and he's helping out this ramen shop. And turns out that this ramen shop is actually descended from his bloodline. So I think that's really, really cool. It shows there is some sort of a connection and basically a tie into a story from years ago having to do with the Yoshida clan. And those of you who are big time Wolverine fans will never forget Mariko Yoshida, which was one of Wolverine's all time loves, who he had to kill. Basically, you know, there was some poison and stuff going on. It's a long, long story, but a huge part of the Wolverine mythos. But in this book, you know, like I said, he's at a ramen shop and he learns that they're getting shook down. You know, there's this local ramen gang who wants the secret family recipe. And at one point we have Wolverine making a bowl of ramen, and I'm talking about chopping up all the veggies, and it's just a side of Wolverine you don't really see. And I thought it was really cool that Claremont put that in there. I mean, all in all, it's a one shot. So you don't really want to go in there expecting any sort of groundbreaking stories, but it is definitely a good read. And Sam Keith's tale, it's out of nowhere. It really does. It's just a typical Sam Keith thing. Very abstract. You know, his art it's an acquired taste, but I've always loved his style. Very exaggerated, very abstract. Like I said, good read. Pick it up if you want something that you don't really have to put a lot of time into and look forward to a second issue. Now, it is written, like I said, with Chris Claremont. You got Larry Hama and Sam Keith, of course. And then our art is from Salvador LaRocca, Sam Keith, and Scott Eaton.
Yeah, I always like when comics take characters that have like, you know, characters with just a lot of backstories to them. Just a very fleshed out history, and they add a different flavor to it, and they execute it, you know, in a way that isn't off-putting. And it really sounds like this comic really hit the nail on that.
Yeah, some cool stories that you probably wouldn't have gotten if they hadn't just hooked us up with a one shot.
All right, we are moving on to Justice League Dark issue number 12. And this is right after we see Wonder Woman pick up, I want to say it was called the Chaos Gem. I'm still pretty new to this run. And they're powered up by Mordro. And they are just like insane. And they go up against the Lords of Order to stop Dr. Fate from destroying magic. And it's nuts. Like, they just completely demolish the Lords of Order. And now they're the newly founded Lords of Chaos. That's their new name. And we might see a new branch of the Justice League called the Justice League Dark. And I cannot put into words how insane things went from this, because it just looked really grim and bleak for everybody, every like magic user in the DC universe in the previous issue. And then in this issue, you just have Wonder Woman just like destroying everything in her sight, because now she's a Lord of Chaos, and like she's like just looks completely different. So yeah, the Justice League Dark has been one of those runs where I just picked up I want to say a couple of podcasts ago, and I wasn't really knowledgeable about it, and it just took me by surprise, because like the art was just really, it had that real grim, realistic approach to it, I guess you would say. Mm-hmm. And it really drew me in. And then the story was really captivating as well. And then everything just took a turn, and then it's just, they're destroying everything in sight. It's just, I don't know. It was one of those comics that threw me for a loop, for real.
So you said Wonder Woman becomes a Lord of Chaos. Is that turning her evil, or is she still a good character just using that power?
Bro, from what I gathered, Chaos is like the evil type of magic. So while she's not evil right now, it's hard to say if she's not going to be influenced to become evil, or maybe do things of the evil nature. You know what I mean? Okay. Like tread that line without exactly crossing it.
I gotcha.
This is really just setting the tone for the remaining run. I'm guessing at least. But this was written by James Tyron the Fourth, with art being done by Alvarez Martinez.
Nice, sounds good. My second book here for you guys is going to be Marvel Comics Presents number 6. Now, right now, Marvel is currently celebrating their 80th birthday. So these Marvel Presents books are just a kind of a throwback to what they did back in the day. And similar to Exit Wounds, they do mostly serve as one-shots, just with multiple stories starring some of the more famous and prominent characters from the Marvel comic universe. And with number 6, it brings us 3 tales featuring Wolverine, the Ghost Rider, and Deadpool. This book, I gotta say, it's all around fun. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff in each story, and I think the Wolverine story probably is going to be the most impactful moving forward, because during the Wolverine story, we see the X-Men who have their backs against a wall, and it's not looking good. And right when it seems the lights are gonna go out, we're introduced to a hot blonde with glowing bone claws, and she's not really happy that Wolverine showed up. She even tells him, you know, we told you to never come back here. And then at the end of this little short Wolverine story, Logan tells Colossus, I think this is my daughter. So, hey, we have another Wolverine love child thrown into the Marvel universe? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see if they continue to flesh this out. But if you move on to the Ghost Rider story, this was cool as well. Like I said, all of these stories have their own little like moments that really, really shine. And this story is focusing on Danny Ketch. So there's been multiple Ghost Riders over the years, but like I said, this is focusing on Danny, and he's fighting a ghost. Oh, wow. Who would have thought the Ghost Rider is going to fight a ghost? But I think the best part of this is after he manages to stop his nemesis, he sends him to hell, and when he faces the king of hell, sitting on the throne of hell is the original Ghost Rider, good old Johnny Blaze. So I love that they threw Johnny Blaze in at the end of that. And then the third and final story in Marvel Comics Presents number 6 is just a goofy ass tale. It's, you know how Deadpool is, he loves to break that fourth wall, sorry. And it's basically a play on what was going on in the 90s. You know, Deadpool ends up making his own comic book company, releasing comics which are just big old superheroes with a bunch of pouches, big old guns, and a bunch of variant covers. It just really, like I said, pokes fun of the comic book boom that happened in the 90s and people running out to buy variants and get, you know, the holographic foil cover and the gold letter cover and the sticker cover and all these different covers that were coming out. So like this story out of the 3, I gotta say, is a bit of a throwaway. First off, I'm not a big fan of Deadpool to begin with, so it is what it is. But all in all, Marvel Comics Presents is doing exactly what Marvel is setting out to do. Just give you fun little stories that you can read through very quickly. And it's got writers Ed Brisson, Tim Seeley, Charles Soule, and then art from Paolo Siqueira. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, I can really enjoy small single shots. I know DC's done that a couple times, and it's always really, really cool to get a couple characters thrown into the mix as well. Which one would you say was your favorite, and why?
I mean, I gotta say the Wolverine one. I'm excited to see where this new daughter of his goes, and I do know that in issue number 7 we will continue that Wolverine story. So I can't wait to see if she is actually his daughter or if she's just someone who can, you know, manifest similar powers to people around her. Not sure.
Well, leading back to the DC universe, we are taking off with Detective Comics 1006. Now, the Detective Comics just got off a huge villain, the Arkham Knight, aka Astrid. And we, like, for whatever reason, it's like such a hard transition. Batman just doing his normal Batman routine, and next thing you know, we are introduced to Detective Jim Corrigan and his partner, which I forgot his partner's name, but they both were shot. And next thing you know, Spectred booms out a gym and goes to find Batman to find the secret assassin. And so it really took a loop. It was really cool to get introduced to this hero, anti-hero, whatever you want to call him, and seeing how Batman just packs the cojones just to step up to him and just is like, yeah, I'm the Batman. Like, what do you need? You really, at least, I was going to say you probably would, but I can't really make that judgment for all the readers out there. I really had I had fun with this issue, but it's still a hard transition from the last one. You know what I mean? And I know like comics really sometimes will have a good transition or not at all, but
so it just seems kind of abrupt is what you're saying? Yeah,
it's just weird to throw into the continuity of the story, if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
This was written by Peter Tomasi. Am I saying that right? I think Tomasi. With art being done by Kyle Hotz.
Nice. Well, we spoke about Venom a little bit ago when I was talking about Wolverine exit wounds. So let's talk a little bit more about Venom. Venom issue 15. We know Eddie's got that new suit. I talked about it a couple episodes ago, and he is doing the very, very best that he can with that new suit and powers, but it just doesn't seem to be enough as he's going up against the likes of the Jack-o'-lantern, who actually has similar gifted powers from Malekith's witches. Now, of course, this is still all going on within the War of the Realms event. Now, Eddie ends up looking, within himself, and he's trying to figure out, how am I going to stop this guy? And he knows that the power is connected somewhat to Asgard. So he's like, you know what? Maybe I need to take a page out of the playbook from the only Asgardian I know. And he brings down the lightning and the thunder, baby. He ends up, quickly dispatching of Jack-o'-lantern. But one thing that you really do take away from this is the growth of Eddie Brock, because there is a moment where, as Eddie's realizing that he's way too overmatched and he can't really stand up to Jack-o'-lantern, he actually sends his suit out. He spreads the symbiotic looking suit to protect all of the people that are in the street during the moment of their battle. So it's really cool to see all these normal looking people and even children. There's a couple kids in the crowd who are all, wearing the same kind of costume and outfit that he's wearing. And I mean, that's something that I don't think Venom has ever done in the past, use his symbiote to kind of help the innocent and, give them the power to help him fight against his adversary. Now, the book is definitely moving at a steady pace. I feel like it's kind of slowing down just a bit because it is going to, they're trying to find a way to lead into his coming battle with Carnage, which I definitely cannot wait to see. And there's a point at the end of the book where after he defeats Jack-o'-lantern, the crystal that was giving Jack-o'-lantern his powers is actually picked up by an unknown person. So I am not sure if maybe that's Cletus Cassidy. Who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. But this does have wonderful, wonderful story from Cullen Boone and art by Iban Coelho. Pick it up, Venom 15.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying you talking about Venom and what's going on in the Venom universe. And dude, it's really cool to see the growth of Eddie Brock as well. How do you think the fight with Carnage is going to go? Do you have any predictions you can offer us?
Well, as of right now, Eddie is still disconnected from the symbiote. So if things stay the way they are, which we're going to talk about the conclusion of War of the Realms here in a little bit, if things stay the way they are, Eddie's not going to have any powers whatsoever to go up against Carnage. So I'm really not sure, how he's going to even stand a chance against a Cletus Cassidy who not only has, his symbiote, but he also has the power of Null, the father of all symbiotes.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's going to be a pretty rough time for Eddie. But I'm guessing we're going to find out the conclusion to what happens in the next couple of issues. Bring it back to conclusions. We are concluding the Batman Damned run. And man, it is nuts. I had to read the Batman Damned 1 and 2 to kind of get a better gist of what was going on exactly. And it is dark. I remember reading Batman Damned. I didn't get a chance to read the second one. And then when I read the third one, I reread all three of them. Excuse me. And it's nuts. Like the Joker is dead. And Batman's trying to figure out who killed him and what happened. And along the way, he picks up Constantine. So you have Constantine Snark and Batman just being gritty and grim. You know what I mean? Like you could just imagine the duo working together. And it was really cool. I mean, we seen Enchantress like the entire time, her entire story, like when she was trying to talk to Bruce and everything, like she started as a young child and like throughout the issues grew into an old lady. So it was really cool. I don't know if readers really noticed that because it was kind of just thrown in there without really having attention drawn to it. And it's just one of those comics that really just dives into the mental psyche of the reader and just tries to like not let you know what's going on. So the entire time you're just like kind of trying to read between the lines, trying to figure out the clues and trying to grasp what's actually happening. And it's nuts, man. It's nuts. And the conclusion definitely doesn't hold back. We even get an appearance from Swamp Thing and he looks demonic. He like for, you know, a lot of the times when he gets introduced, he looks scary, but not like too scary. Like in this issue, he looks like a straight up demon and he's just like wiping the floor with anyone that comes at him. It's beautiful, dude. It is beautiful. And like the art within it is just like, I've never seen it. Like I never seen art that like done like this as dark and look as beautiful as it did. And this was written by Brandon Azzarello with art being done by Lee Bermeo.
Nice. You know, I got to ask you a question here because it sounds like you got a good book on your hands for sure. But for me, and I know Marvel has lots of continuity issues and things just happening all over the place at a lot of the same times. But this goes back to something I said before, man. DC, for me, it's just so hard to keep up with what's going on. You're telling me that Joker's dead, but then there's this other book where Joker's alive. And it's like, man, how do you wrap your head?
I can't really spoil it. The premise of the run was Joker being dead. That doesn't mean he actually is dead. And within the DC universe, there's actually 3 Jokers. Which
we all know that.
That's DC's way of trying to tie it back together. But yeah, without spoiling it too much, I'm not going to confirm if the Joker actually is dead or not.
I gotcha. I just feel like for someone who's not a huge DC Comics reader, it can be a bit intimidating to find a series and latch onto it when you realize that there are so many one-offs going on at the same time that aren't necessarily part of the normal continuity. I mean, would you agree to a certain extent that they do have a lot of stories that overlap and intertwine, but still are outside of the main DC world?
Yeah. I mean, that does happen. But it's really to each their own, I would suppose. I mean, sometimes when I'm doing a run, like I don't want to read like 10 different spinoffs that tie into different other heroes that I don't care particularly enough to read. You know what I mean? Like when I pick my 4 comics a week, I try to tie it to something I'm passionate about, but I'm not afraid to jump into other heroes and read them. But if it's just some hero that I never really cared about, it sucks knowing that part of the story that I am interested in bleeds into that. And if I wanted to, and I'm a big collectionist, like I love collecting. So then I have to start collecting like all these other comics that I could care less about. So yeah, I get it. And I agree with it. But you know,
I mean, as long as the stories are good, I think that at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're on the subject of stories interweaving and going all over the place into different arcs and different characters. Let's finish off my Marvel selection here with the final issue of their summer event, War of the Realms, number 6. Now, last time we talked about it, we left off with Thor basically jacking into the world tree, which was growing on the sun, because he realized he had to step his game up, baby. If he was going to defeat Malekith's evil plan, he was going to have to ascend to another level. But however, it turns out it's going to take more than just one Thor to get that job done. So what we end up having is the current timeline Thor alongside a much, much younger Thor, future Thor. But hold up, that's not all. We do get the returning Jane Foster Thor as well. So we've got 4 Thors ready to whoop some evil dark elf butt. Now, the Asgardian super friends, as I like to call them, head off together to face off against Malekith. And I mean, this is seriously just awesome. This is the way you conclude an event. There's tons of action, sweet one-liners from Thor, and I'm talking all the Thors just have their moment to shine. And you can really see how each character is so different, but still the same. And I think the biggest takeaway, and this is something that is going to shake the Marvel comic universe for possibly years to come, is, the culmination of the current timeline Thor making it to the position of All-Father. And that is exactly as it sounds. Odin bends the knee and acknowledges that Thor has ascended. He is now All-Father Thor. And I mean, it's just like that scene where Odin bends the knee, it literally just sent chills up and down my spine. I was like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen moving forward? This is definitely, like I said, this is how you end a massive summertime story event that just encompassed all of your universe and all your characters. And I cannot wait to see the ripple effects and what continues forward with this. But this was written by Jason Aaron. It's got beautiful art from Russell Dodderman. War of the Realms #6. I give it 100,000 thumbs up. This is, like I said, this is how you end a storyline.
So it really sounds like this comic took a nod at Thor. I don't know. Have you ever read any of the God Killer or God Bomb?
I've never been a big Thor guy, and like this was probably my second foray into anything really hardcore Thor heavy.
So in God Bomb, Thor has to go up against this villain, and they actually have present day Thor, they have King Thor, and then young Thor. And I want to say present day Thor ends up, that's where he wields 2 hammers at the same time. I think that's where Endgame got the nod from too. I'm not 100% sure on that. Mm-hmm. But I loved it, man. So hearing you talk about this with 4 different Thors, that really got me going, man. And I definitely think I need to check it out, because anytime you see that many Thors on the battlefield, it's about to be chaotic.
Yeah, and it definitely was. I mean, like I said, great fight scenes. Really, really well drawn.
And that wraps up our weekly take on this week's comic books. There are some awesome news for you readers and viewers out there. So without hesitation, let's dive into it.
Now, first thing I would love to talk about is, of course, I don't think anyone is going to get hit off guard with this one, but apparently there is no sequel to Hellboy coming to theaters. David Harbour, the guy from Stranger Things, who played Hellboy in the reboot of the franchise, he basically was interviewed, and I mean, he just said straight out, I don't think it made a lot of money. I don't really keep up with those things too much, to be honest, but I don't think the perception was that it was a hit. And so in that way, I don't know that the risk is worth it. Now, I actually recently got to watch the remake of Hellboy for the second time, and I got to be honest with you, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I'm not going to say that it was anywhere near on par with the original, but it was fun and it was a lot more true to the actual comic books. So I would say I would kind of be open to a sequel, but unfortunately it's kind of sad to hear that, you know, even the star, the main character is saying, hey, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. Personally, and this is just my opinion, but I mean, I don't know if there was enough for a sequel or if a sequel would have been as good. Sometimes sequels will like not ruin, but like take away the effect of the first movie, if that makes sense. Like a not like a sequel that's not good could sometimes ruin like the whole entire fucking movie series. So I don't know. I liked Hellboy, and while I liked Hellboy, I don't think there was just enough momentum there for a sequel, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to disagree. I think they definitely did a good job of setting up the BPRD, and I think with that universe and the characters involved, there's definitely a lot more that could have, you know, came from it. But, you know, in the end, we're not going to have to worry about that because it just didn't make enough money. And nowadays, Hollywood is, well, I mean, I guess Hollywood's always been about making money, but with these superhero movies and how much these budgets are, if they're not making double to triple what the budget was, there's no chance of seeing that continue down the road.
And on to other things that didn't make the cut either. Zack Snyder's been revealing some of the clearest looks at Darkseid from the DCEU. And this is back before he got his powers and he was called Uxas. It's just a black and white image of him yelling. It's looking like he's holding maybe a bow staff or some sort of pole. And it looks like Snyder wanted to include him in Justice League. He just really didn't make the cut. I'm not really seeing indication on why he was cut. Penn, do you have any idea what may have happened?
Well, it seems like a lot of the stuff that Zach has been posting is kind of I don't know if he's trying to pressure DC and Warner Brothers, but, you know, Zach had a completely different vision for the Justice League movie. And when he had to step out from the movie and it was taken over by a completely different director, a lot of the stuff that he had planned was basically thrown away and cast aside. So I feel like him leaking all of this stuff, again, like I said, is him trying to say, hey, Warner Brothers, fans want to see the Zack Snyder cut. They want to know what this movie was originally intended to be. And, you know, this image here, it actually excites me. I mean, it is it's not fully rendered. It's not, you know, top of the line cutting Hollywood blockbuster CG, but just the fact that this is him pre-Omega, you know, before he gets those powers, it's like, okay, they were really looking to flesh out the idea of Darkseid and him ending up becoming the ruler of Apocalypse. So, man, come on, Warner Brothers, give us the Zack Snyder cut, please.
Yeah, because what was it, Steppenwolf? That dude was a joke. That's exactly why I would say the DCU fucking just flopped. Because, like, oh my god, dude, I was so like, it's always been known that DC movies have taken a step down to Marvel. And, you know, I was kind of, you know, I went into Justice League kind of like not really trying to expect too much. And then when it was Steppenwolf, I was like, man.
Yeah, and I mean, Steppenwolf's a great character, but I think if they would have went with Zack Snyder's original idea for Steppenwolf, because that's another thing that he leaked a few months back, is, you know, he didn't want the character to be CG. He actually had a nice buff actor who had armor and everything, you know, like it looked legit. And I think if they had just done that, the character would have been a lot more relatable. And I feel like DC is constantly falling into that pit hole of, hey, let's just have our villain this big, ugly CG monster thing. And it's not doing them any good. But
yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it, you know, you had what, Doomsday? You had Steppenwolf? You had Ares and Wonder Woman? Like just these ugly CG characters that really don't humanize any sort of villainy. So a little more big screen news here is apparently Marvel is actually looking to cast a possible Storm. This is seriously like not confirmed, so take it with a grain of salt. But I guess someone close to the studio confirmed that Nathalie Emmanuel, who of course played Missandei in Game of Thrones, is being considered for the role of Storm in what could possibly be the X-Men coming to the MCU, which we all know they reacquired the rights to the X-Men franchise from 21st Century Fox. Man, that was a rough one. But I mean, what do you feel about this Nathalie getting a possible role in Black Panther #2 as Storm?
Yeah, I think it's about time they introduced the MCU. I think this would be a perfect introduction, and I think we've talked about this being one of the ways, because back in the day before Talk Geekly was Talk Geekly, we would just rant when I streamed over Discord about stuff, and I think this was one of the ways we talked about introducing the MCU. Actually, was as Black Panther's wife, because that's in the comic books that's actually what happens. So I think this is really cool, and I think this would be a perfect introduction. With Spider-Man kind of leading off the Marvel phase after Endgame, we need something. We need something to counterbalance it, and I think this would be a great start. I'm just curious on how they're going to introduce the mutants. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think all of us are. This is an exciting time for Marvel fans, knowing that they have the rights to all of those characters. But at the same time, knowing that Marvel likes to plan things out years and years in advance. So we might not really get to see many of those characters for I don't know, who knows, 4 or 5 years.
On to other news. It looks like Dark Horse Comics has announced that The Witcher Omnibus, is that how you say it?
Omnibus,
man, I cannot pronounce anything. Is getting a comic book release. It looks like issues 1 through 5 of the series is going on sale January 15th, 2020. Not a whole lot on it, just a little leak. I think it's going to be cool. I never got a chance to play the Witcher game series, but people who I know have played it absolutely loved it and said it had a lot of good lore. Another cool series that's coming out is being overseen and written by Joe Hill. It's a new line of DC horror called Basket Full of Heads. Just looking at the issue itself, looks pretty grim. Decapitated heads, a raincoat, the classic yellow raincoat that's involved with every murderer, it seems. I haven't read a lot from Joe Hill. I'm not very knowledgeable about him, but it does look pretty cool. And I think it's pretty awesome on DC to allow a horror comic line to come out as well. I never really read a whole lot of gory comic books outside of I don't think I've really read anything outside of what's been kind of just Batman related or you know what I mean? But this actually looks like it's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable with this whole idea, but I guess it's kind of like an imprint similar to Vertigo. So I guess Hill House Comics is what they're doing here. And it looks like there's quite a few different books besides Basket Full of Heads. You've got the Dollhouse Family, the Lolo Woods, Daphne Byrne, and Plunge. So DC, as always, I feel like DC is from the 3 top comic publishers. I feel like DC does a really good job in the horror genre. And I feel like they always have. They have been a much darker publisher as of late. So all in all, I would say it is something exciting and something to look forward to. Now, I want to go into our last bit of news here, and this is probably more of this is bigger news as far as I'm concerned. So for a while there, we had heard that Warner Brothers was not going to be coming to San Diego Comic-Con. They were not going to have anything about their cinematic universe unveiled. Well, it looks like Sony and apparently Universal are also doing the same. Now, as of the last couple of years, one of the biggest things out of San Diego Comic-Con is Hall H and what goes on with the different movie companies and what they are planning to release. So with these, with the addition of these two companies deciding that they are not going to have a panel, this is leaving it completely wide open for Marvel Studios to come in and just dominate and completely put their foot on the neck of their competition. I don't know how you feel about knowing that Sony, as well as, Universal and Warner Brothers, are not going to be there. But I mean, how do you feel about knowing that Marvel's going to be the only one to have any sort of news coming out of San Diego Comic-Con as far as cinematic universe?
I think the biggest thing to reflect on here is that Marvel's just killing it in the movie industry. It's really, you said before, they like to plan their movies out. They like to have everything like lead and build into one another. And I think it's really killing the movie industry, and it's really just capitalizing on what movie seers want to see. And I don't think they have anything that's going to be able to match the potential of what Marvel's bringing to the table right now, if I could just be honest and blunt. Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I just feel like, especially for Warner Brothers, they have Wonder Woman 1984 coming out. They have Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Man, that's a mouthful. But, they have those two movies coming out fairly soon, and it's just kind of strange to see that they're not going to hint at anything down the pipeline. Now, I know there have been some reports that Kevin Feige said that Marvel is going to slow down what they reveal in Hall H, because I guess, when they revealed the entire cinematic phase 3 thing, he felt like that was a mistake. So maybe we won't get to see as much Marvel news during this little presentation that they're going to have, but I'm still looking forward to, hopefully getting a glimpse as to what the next phase has in store for us.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, you saying that they think it might be a mistake, like they really, when they dropped that, I think it took everyone by storm, because like, dude, it's nuts. Like, I didn't think I thought the Marvel universe was going to be slowly, like, you know what I mean? Like, not clocking out, but like, because losing Tony Stark and losing Steve Rogers, man, that's big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's whatever comes up for them next. It's going to be basically a rebirth, not to steal any keywords from DC, but I mean, that's how I feel the next phase of Marvel's movies are going to be. It's a complete reimagining and reintroduction for us as moviegoers, but also, those characters, they've got to kind of reconnect with the fans.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to talk about it, but I think Spider-Man's doing the trick, honestly.
Yeah, and that's a great way to jump in, is, hey, we're going to be talking about, Spider-Man Far From Home. That is I believe this is the official, according to Kevin Feige, this is the official end of that phase. So Spider-Man Far From Home, it's not the start of a new phase. This is the exclamation point at the end of what happened with Avengers Endgame. So Spider-Man Far From Home, it is directed by John Watts. He is reprising his role as the director of Spider-Man Homecoming. And I'm going to start off by saying this is an enjoyable film for sure. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I thought Spider-Man Far From Home definitely was not one of those sequels that falls into the pit of ruining the franchise. It still had the same witty humor that the first one did. And man, Tom Holland is just continually getting better at playing the character of Peter Parker.
Yeah, I would say Tom really is doing an outstanding role in that position. He really capitalizes on like the schoolboy feeling that I would always envision Peter Parker having, the awkward, like cringiness of being a teenager, and just like, dude, he doesn't want to be a hero 24/7. He's a kid. He wants to be a kid, and I think that's the biggest thing we can draw from this movie is the fact that it allows us to see how vulnerable he really is And he's just a kid, dude. He just wants to go get a girlfriend. He just wants to have fun with his friends on vacation. He doesn't want to talk superhero stuff with Nick Fury or be saving the world 24/7. And I thought that was one of the best points of the movie. And I think we really haven't seen a movie like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I like you said, he basically sends Nick Fury to voicemail. Fury's trying to get a hold of him over and over and over again throughout the beginning of the film, and he's just not having it. He does not want to deal with that life just for this brief moment. You got to keep in mind that this is a young kid who basically had his role model die right before his eyes. He looked up to Tony, and Tony was somewhat of a father figure for Peter Parker in the MCU. And this is right after that happened. So you cannot expect this kid to want to jump right into the battle. So I agree with you. I like seeing how they tackled the more human aspects of his character.
Yeah, and the fact that he's seeing Tony's face everywhere he goes, like it set the tone for just what you would expect perfectly. I really liked the introduction of Mysterio. I really liked it. I really liked how it just threw you for a loop. Like, we're going to try to be as spoiler free as possible. I know in the past we've tended to kind of drop some big spoilers here and there. Sometimes you can't really avoid it. But with this one, like, I think in a pen, I don't know if you agree or not, but like, dude, just like how he gets introduced to the point where you find out that he's a villain was just beautiful.
I mean, so we all saw the trailer, or for those of you who stay away from trailers, I applaud you. And you have better, I don't know what the exact terminology I'm trying to look for here, but you're a better person than I am, because I cannot avoid trailers. I love them. But we all saw the trailer, and we saw that, basically Mysterio comes from another Earth. And this was the idea of introducing the multiverse. And that was awesome. I was very excited for that. But just like you said, I feel like, I mean, we all kind of know, as a Spider-Man fan, Mysterio. You know that the dude's a bad guy. So no matter what, if you didn't see the trailer and you have no idea that in this film Mysterio's a good guy, you're going to assume, hey, Peter versus Mysterio, that's the big takeaway, the big ending. So like you said, the way they introduced the character was cool, but the way they revealed the character, I feel, was 100% like it's not the way the comics do the character, but I feel personally I actually like this origin for Mysterio a lot more than the comics.
It gave me the Vulture vibe, like how they introduced the Vulture. He's just a hardworking guy trying to provide for his family, and it gets ripped away from him. Like the same thing with Mysterio on how he was mistreated. And let's not get
too into that.
Yeah.
Let's keep that open for the people there. But yeah, I agree, man. I feel like in this franchise, they're doing a really good job of making these villains just a lot more down to earth and a lot more relatable as normal guys.
And I think that is such a perfect thing to do. I think it really capitalizes on everything you could do, because you take a classic villain and it's over something where it's like money. Like, okay, I could feel that, I could see that, but when you really get personable with it, then it really starts reaching for you, and then that's what draws you in. You almost like the villain. You almost side with the villain on why he's being a bad guy, and I really kind of felt that with this movie. This movie had its flaws, don't get me wrong. There were some parts I felt like we're kind of like meh, but overall, like you said, this was a really outstanding movie. I really enjoyed it. It was something where I went in there expecting a Spider-Man movie, and it delivered on that part, but so much more, because it like just fleshed out Peter Parker even more than Homecoming did. And I thought Homecoming did a pretty good job with it. I loved seeing how like quirky and cringy he was around MJ. You know what I mean? Like he's like super like in love with her, that childhood love, and like I felt that like as a kid, like that's something
for
I
sure.
felt.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
there was a human connection there that like you just said, I felt it too, man. Like it was cool to see that. And that's the charm of Spider-Man. I think that's what everyone loves about that character is no matter who you are, you can always relate to Peter Parker at some point in the character's history, you know? He's so freaking human. I mean, and these movies are just doing an amazing job of keeping that charm and mystique. I don't think they could do wrong with Tom Holland playing that character, and if as long as John Watts comes back for a third one, I think the third one's going to be even better.
I will say, overall, what do you think were like some of the flaws, like some of the parts? Because we are like talking it up pretty hard. Like if you had to say some of the flaws in the movie, like what would you say exactly would be something that you would point?
You know,
I really I don't know. I love it's hard to talk about without spoiling. That's the hardest part. The little I love the little things they did to Tony Stark, you know what I mean? The little Easter eggs in there and stuff. One thing I if I had to say I hated something, it would probably be, even though Mysterio's backstory in this was good, don't get me wrong, I agree with you, I hate how like different he felt in the movie compared to the comics.
Okay. See, and I would have to say I liked how different, and I said that just a little bit ago. Like I feel like this Mysterio, for me, it works better, but I think it's because I'm at that point where it's like, you know, I'm starting to really be able to separate the comics from the movies. And before I was not like that, you know, just small little changes in these things would really, really set me off. And I've gotten to a point where, you know what, I can just ignore it and enjoy these movies for what they are, which is a completely different universe. Now, talking about what I feel is bad or offsetting for this movie, it's just one thing. It's only one thing. And that is the lack of a Stan Lee cameo.
Yes, yes.
Other than that, I gotta say, and this is crazy. And now keep in mind, I'm not saying this is an amazing movie. You know, on if you were doing this by percentage of how awesome it is, I'd give it about an 85%. So that's not nothing to be like, oh, it's bad, but it's not exceptional. It's a good movie, but I can't find anything that I did not like other than the no Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, which maybe they're trying to get out of that. You know what I mean? Maybe this is the start of not seeing him in any other movie.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that you're hitting the nail on the head with that one. It's just disappointing, you know? It's something that I looked forward to. I was really sitting there thinking, all right, how are they going to introduce him? Are we going to get, you know, a plaque on the wall in the background that has a quote? Or is there going to be possibly a newspaper flying around on the street during one of the battles that has a picture and just some sort of headline? We didn't get that. And maybe we did and I just didn't see it. But, you know, give me my stand, please.
I really see, and if I'm gonna just spoil like one small thing because I don't even know if you recognized it.
Tread lightly.
But no, I am, because I watched Iron Man 1 like just a couple days ago. So when Spider-Man's getting ready to do his thing, they actually play the same AC/DC song. Was like,
yes. That was
awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. And I think, what does he say? Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, he's like, I love Led Zeppelin. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah, it was freaking awesome. I mean, you know, there is a lot of stuff to look out for in the background of this movie. There's one scene where they're in New York. They're back in New York, and I believe this is towards the end of the film. And him and MJ are kind of doing their thing, and there's this wall art or basically an advertisement on the back. And it's the subway line in New York. And the numbers are interesting because it seems like, at least to me, and I could be grasping at straws here and just trying to pull something out. But for me, it felt like this was a nod to the fans. And I think it says I don't remember the exact wording, and it's something I'd have to watch again to catch or try to find a screen capture or something online. But it showed the 1, 2, 3, the train lines in New York in succession. And it said like, wait till you see what comes next or something like that. And I couldn't help but think phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, wait till you see what comes next. Like that's what kept coming into my head during that scene.
Yeah. And that definitely does make sense. This did leave the room for another movie. I mean, it's pointless to say it didn't. So I mean, do I think we're going to see another sequel? Yeah. I think we're going to see another Spider-Man movie. And I think we're gonna. It's hard to say. Like, what's your predictions? I know we're gonna get another Spider-Man movie. I feel like we're gonna get another Doctor Strange movie too.
Yeah, we're definitely getting another Doctor Strange. They have confirmed that they're gonna be working on a sequel for that. And I feel like you said, it's kind of a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned with Spider-Man. It's probably one of the more relatable. I mean, it definitely is one of the more relatable films in the entire MCU. The character that Tom Holland is bringing to the screen is way more fleshed out than any other character. Now, keep in mind, he's only had the 2 films so far, but you've got characters like Thor, characters like Captain America, who've been in, 4, 5, 6 different movies. And I don't feel like we've had really much character depth with any of those characters. Nowhere near as close to what we're getting with Spider-Man. So we got to get a third one, and we've got to have him in more movies and possibly giving him a more predominant role. And I think if you make sure you stick around and watch the entire film, wait till the after credits, wait till, get all of that, you're going to see that things are not going to be things aren't going to work out too well for our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man here coming up fairly soon, I'm assuming.
And that wraps up our take on Spider-Man Far From Home. I would say I'd probably give it about an 85% as well. Go out and see it if you get the chance. It's one of those movies that is going to really set the tone for the next phase, I would believe.
Yeah, so thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. We're actually going to be giving you 2 episodes this week just to kind of, make up for the little bit of time that we lost because of 4th of July and different things that were going on. But you'll be getting another episode later this week. And I believe we're going to be talking about some Super Mario Maker 2. But before we just leave you like that, I mean, let's talk about what we're looking forward to. So what you got on the docket there, buddy?
I've been really wanting to check out Bloodstain Ritual of the Night. That seems like a pretty cool game. There's another game coming out, say July 26th, Wolfenstein Young Blood. I'm always a big fanatic of like shooters that are just like super alpha, super gory, just blowing limbs and brains and guts out. So, I mean, I definitely want to check it out too.
Nice.
There's
awesome.
not a whole lot. I got my PC up and running. I did have some issues with my internet where it was down for about 2 weeks. So I took advantage of that, got a lot of stuff done around the house, picked up a Switch, got the PC up and running. We're actually recording the podcast this time on the PC. Previously, we were using a laptop on a TV tray with like a big blanket around me. So hopefully the sound is pretty good because that blanket was pretty insufferable. But Penn, what's up with you? What's on your docket, man?
Honestly, right now, I'm just trying to get back into drawing. After watching the Hellboy movie recently, it really inspired me to draw a Hellboy piece. So I ended up sketching up some stuff, and then that kind of got my brain going. And I was like, man, what if I did a piece that was like all of these hell-inspired, demonic, anti-hero characters? So I'm working on a piece here that I can't wait to post to social media. And, it's going to have a couple different characters from different comic book labels. And that's really exciting for me. But also, I'm looking forward to playing DuckTales Remastered. I mean, I know it's an old game, it's been out for a while, but I just got it on the Steam sale for my PC. So I'm going to be playing that and sharing that with my son because DuckTales was one of my favorite games back on the Nintendo a long time ago. So I can't wait to share that with the little kid there. And I mean, other than that, can't wait to do the next episode so I can talk about Super Mario Maker 2 because that was a lot of fun. So, hey.
I've been pretty excited, man. Like, real quick though, like I just picked up Final Fantasy 9 on the Switch. So I know what you mean, like playing those old school games. Like, dude, it feels so good. You know what I mean? It brings back what it felt like to be a kid almost. And that wraps up our segment for today. You can, of course, find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Talk Geekly to stay up to date with what we're doing during our time off from podcasting.
Keep it geekly.
What's that in the sky?